Capital Views is sponsored by Northrim Bank, Alaska Oil and Gas Association, ConocoPhillips, and Linden.
Hi, I'm Tim Bradner with Alaska Legislative Digest, and welcome to Capitol Views. And welcome today to Representative Cathy Tilton from District 26, R-Wasilla. And thanks for joining us, Representative Tilton.
Good morning, Tim, and good morning to everyone watching. Thank you so much for having me on the show today.
Well, you're welcome, and I'd like to ask a little bit about, a little bit. You're in the Republican minority this year in the House, and it's an interesting situation because it's a very close margin between the majority and the minority, and you've been kind of on both sides. You were Speaker last legislature with a thin margin of control for the majority, and this year things have flipped, and you're in the minority, and there's a thin margin of control for the new majority. Anyway, how does that work? Maybe you could explain kind of what the roles of the minority, how many votes, how many people have to be there to make things happen?
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Tim. The difference between the majority and the minority is typically it's a numbers issue. And this year in the majority, it's 21 members. And interestingly enough, to pass any law or for most of the things, it's a 21 member vote. So there's 21 members in the majority this year and 19 members sitting in a Republican minority. It makes it very difficult for the majority if they have one person missing, if anybody has health issues like we saw earlier in this session with one of our representatives had some health issues and wasn't here for quite some time. So that can cause some challenges. You have to be a very coherent team to work on the smaller with no margin actually there for error.
And you've been on both sides of it. I mean, you were Speaker last legislature with a very thin majority, so you know what it's like to have to count votes, make sure everybody shows up.
Yep. Yeah. Yes. Last year we were 23 in the majority, so just a couple of numbers more, which actually gives you a little bit of breathing room. But yes, you have to be very aware of all your members. You have to know where everybody stands and when they're going to go to the floor and vote. And it does not come. Having a thin majority does not come without its challenges. Let's just say. So yeah, and. If I look back and think about that, ultimately you would want to have, ultimately if you had 27 in your majority, that gives you that room, and then your 2/3 vote, and ultimately if you had 30, you'd be great. But those numbers don't seem to be showing up in these years, and we're a very divided state, as well as a divided legislature. Caucuses are formed around philosophies, and a lot of times political relationships. So the state has been very divided in different issues, and that we're seeing that right here in the legislature.
Okay, Kathy, just tell us, you've been in the legislature a while. How many terms have you served? And you've had different positions. And then I'd like to ask about your district too, but how many terms have you served there?
So I have served for 6 terms. This is my sixth. I was actually staffed before that. I have been started out. We were in the majority in my first term, in actually a large majority. My second term, we wound up in the minority, and we stayed there for 3 terms. The next term, we were in the majority, and now we're here in the minority again. So, and through that time period, I have been a chair of policy committee. I've been on finance for several terms, and then was the minority leader, and then went on to be speaker, and now here we are again. So yeah.
Interesting. Well, Kathy, you're from Wasilla in the Mat-Su, and that's one of the few regions of the state that's really growing, which means you've got issues there that other areas don't have. Like you've got roads, you know, rising school populations, but school bus issues. How are things in the Matsu, and what are people worried about out there?
The Matsu right now is really just a wonderful place to be. And I think that folks are moving to the Matsu to get away from some of the regulations and things that government might be doing in other areas of our state. And so we're finding quite a population coming to the Matsu. It started around the time when, well, I hate to say the word COVID, but in 2020, when we had that, a lot of the areas in our state had some lockdowns and regulations on folks. And the Matsu has a little more of a let's say a liberty-minded freedom area of the state where not a lot of the folks don't want a lot of government intervention in their lives. As far as the population increasing, though, along with that, which is a great thing, does come that need to fix roads, more access on state government services. Therefore, you have to figure out how you're going to provide for all of those folks.
Uh, one of the one of the issues that you folks are going to be dealing with really this year and probably next year is the new idea for a gas pipeline. And I
Mhm.
know you're on the Legislative Budget and Audit Committee, Kathy, which is sort of going to be overseeing a lot of this. What are your thoughts? Did you have concerns? Are you upbeat about the project? It's important to your district, I know, because the pipeline would go through Matsu.
Yeah, we've heard about the gas pipeline for years and years, and people have been got really excited about it, and then not so excited, and not really excited, and not so excited. I think the thing that's different this time is that we have a federal government that's weighing in and is excited as well. So hopefully can help with some of the funding issues that we have, and maybe even finding partners to sell their gas to once we take care of Alaskans. There was a lot of questions that were really great, and if folks have time, they should tune into that legislative budget and audit meeting, because a lot of those issues into the details were answered as much as AGDC and ADA can tell us. I'm excited and I'm hopeful because I know that here in Alaska, that would really help with the issues that we have with energy and help us to bring more economy here to Alaska. Maybe, different businesses would be more interested in being in Alaska if the cost of energy wasn't so high.
Well, it's very important to all of us, particularly in stimulating our economy. Well, thank you for joining us, Representative Tilton.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on today, Tim. Anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you.